Now, every one of us tuning in right now have had what we call that heart dog. You know, the dog who inspires, it motivates us to be better humans. For our special guest today, the heart dog was named Moose. Although his life was cut short by cancer, his legacy and purpose lives on. Please welcome to our show the founder of a nonprofit group. It's called Moose's March, the incredible Trisha Montgomery. Welcome to our show, Trisha.
Oh, Arden, thank you for having me. And yes, Moose was my heart dog.
Well, folks, her name is familiar because she is a top dog in the pet industry. She's been involved in a lot of different missions and campaigns and purposes. And this one's a big one. This one, she's on a mission to help us do things to maybe prevent, maybe detect early, the big C, cancer. So tell us a little bit about Moose's March, Trisha.
Sure. First of all, Arden, an honor and a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much. Moose's March is named after my dog, Moose, who passed away of stage 4 lymphoma. Moose was my heart dog. I adopted him from Paws Humane Society before the pandemic when I was CEO for Paws. And he was beside me. He was my glue. He was that dog. And I had come home from an event in Talladega, gone about 3 days, came home and wrapped my arms around him and was snuggling him. And I thought, oh my goodness.
Oh no.
And that he had 4 nodes underneath his neck. And as I began to pat him down like we as humans do, and we do with our own dogs too, he had 3 more nodes and they were large.
That was fast.
Yeah. And my dog center, Kennedy, had said to me, hey, he's kind of feeling a little, he's not playing as much, he's kind of laying around. He misses you. And that's what she thought it was. But she did note that for me, Arden. And I think that's kind of what keyed me in. And then all of a sudden the nodes, and then I knew what they were. And he was gone within like 2.5, 3 weeks. He was gone. And I will tell you from my grief, I've never had a grief like that before in my life, ever. I think everything that had happened recently, whether it was my father had passed away, my mom had passed away the year before, and then Moose passed away, and just loss. And I have never experienced a grief like that before in my life. And luckily, I was able to talk to people and really picked myself up off the floor. And when I say off the floor, I mean literally off the floor. And I'm going to give a shout out to my beautiful sister, Cheryl, for helping come up with Moose's March. But we came up with Moose's March first as a program last year. And this year we are our own 501c3 organization. This is my passion. This is my project. And this is all about a legacy for Moose. We focus, Arden, on the early detection of pet cancer.
And that is so amazing because you could have just crawled under a rock. And, I know I can sense that this is extremely hard, but you're putting forefront. What can I do with the legacy of Moose, maybe to help somebody else, right? And that's kind of the best way to be a human.
It was, and it was hard. It was really hard. I will go back to this because I think for your audience, we don't talk about cancer enough. Maybe we don't talk about grief enough, but I was on the floor and I didn't want to go on. I mean, I'd never, and I've had me, I've had lots of dogs before, and I've never had a pain like that before. And that just was so deep inside me. And out of that came, out of the grief has come this beautiful legacy to him, and for hope and for quality of life and for touching other people and letting them know it's okay to talk about cancer, that there is hope, that there is quality. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how do you talk to, how do you understand a veterinarian? What is there an early detection? Is there a test? Is there something that we can do? And knowledge is key. and education.
Well, before we step into that part, I do want people to get a little sense of Moose. He was a pitty, right? And he was not a giant pitty. And I call pit bulls meaty. They have meaty cheeks because when they smile, they got the Mayday cheeks. And, they're called nanny dogs. So you're at an event, aren't you, back then, right before COVID, and you met this dog, and tell us.
Yeah. So I had lost my dog Zeus to Cushing's disease the year before, and I had become CEO for Paws Humane Society, gone to Columbus, Georgia, didn't know a soul, didn't know anyone. And everyone's like, oh, you should adopt, and I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. My birthday weekend, March 29th, like right as the pandemic was happening, a dog came in from Columbus Animal Care and Control. And he had come in with his brothers. He had been chained outside. He was skinny as a rail. His ribs were protruding. His legs were like all over the back, like cattywampus, and and he was like this hot mess dog. It was a Saturday morning, and I'm like, this is the worst birthday ever. The worst birthday ever. Happy birthday to me. And I'm like, I'm going to foster. And then I had to get approved through our foster coordinator. And so luckily they pulled some strings, and I got to take Moose home with me and brought him home with me. And I was kind of in an empty apartment because my furniture was still in Chicago.
Oh, no.
It's a scenario that I can't make it up. And I think I went to the store and I bought a steak, and I brought us some food, and I'm like, we're just going to have some wine, this dog and I, although the Moose didn't drink anything, but I did. And he spent the weekend with me, and we just had a beautiful time. He was heartworm positive. And so we couldn't really walk as much, but we hung out, and then we snuggled, we watched television, and there was just this love. And I'm like, I'm not ready to adopt yet. And I brought him back.
Of course.
And we placed him back into the runs. And then, of course, throughout the day, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go back. I'm just going to go back. And then I'm like, sat, and then they found me in the corner with him. And they're like, why don't you just adopt him? Yeah. And so I adopted him. It was during the Abyssal Clear the Shelters event. And shout out, thanks, Kathy Bissell, for all you do for animal welfare organizations. But I adopted him, and he was my glue, Arden. He had a lot of health issues. Again, going back to that heartworm positive diagnosis, he had a little heart murmur and some different things like that. A lot of skin issues, but he was this dog that just endeared himself to everyone. He went to work with me every day. And as an animal welfare organization during that time, you were an essential worker. I was an essential worker. I worked 7 days a week, probably 10, 12 hours, 14 hours a day. And he was with me. He was in the office, and he would jump on me at 7:00, 6:30, like, hey, it's time to go, walked him, and he was just part of my life. And when I say he never left my side, And he just everything. He loved The Bachelor. He had his favorites. We would talk about those, And I've never had a dog like that in all my life. I don't think I've ever had a dog like that. And slept with me. I mean, everything I ate, he ate. Salmon, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. He ate like a king. I home cooked for him, and he was it. And just the snuggles and the love.
We're speaking with Trisha Montgomery. She is the founder of Moose's March. Please go to Moose's, let's say this, MOOSES March.com. And there's a lot of great things on that site and ways that you can help.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content.